A love so deep that after watching it, tears will roll down your eyes and your heart will weep. Let's begin. The movie starts at a railway station. A girl is sitting there, holding 2 tickets in her hand, waiting for her boyfriend. Her name was Suzanne. She was leaving her home today forever. But even after a long wait, no one came to her. Heartbroken by her boyfriend not showing up, she began to cry. To ease her pain, she went into a store and bought a cold drink. But lost in sorrow, she forgot the drink right there and walked away. While on the way, she remembered she had paid for the cold drink but left it at the store. She quickly went back. At that very moment, a boy was walking out of the store holding the same cold drink Suzanne had just purchased. The shopkeeper wasn't at the counter, so Suzanne snatched the bottle from his hand and drank it right in front of him. The boy was stunned. He couldn't understand what this girl wanted. Suzanne then walked away and got on a bus. Inside, when she reached into her bag to buy a ticket, she realized her wallet was missing. She remembered the last time she had taken it out was at the store where she bought the cold drink. Rushing back, she found the shopkeeper holding her wallet and the cold drink. He said, "I think you forgot these here." Suzanne realized then the boy she had snatched the cold drink from had actually bought it himself. She went out to look for him, but by then, he was already gone. She returned home. Her family didn't question her, knowing that Suzanne had planned to leave forever with her boyfriend. The next day, Suzanne accompanied her father to his worksite. He worked for a construction company. When they arrived, Suzanne told him she would stay inside the car because of the dust. Her father went upstairs to check the work. There, a young man was discussing something with the site supervisor. It was the same boy, Charles, whose cold drink she had mistakenly taken the night before. Charles was the foreman at the site and also studying architecture. When Suzanne's father arrived, the supervisor complained, "Charles isn't letting us pour the concrete today. He says it should be done tomorrow." Charles explained, "The blocks aren't strong enough to hold the concrete today, and many lives could be at risk." With that, he walked downstairs. Suzanne, who worked as a fashion designer, later went to her job where a renovation project was underway. Suzanne calls her father for help, asking him to hire someone for her renovation project. Soon, she sees Charles walk in. It was her father who had sent him. As Charles inspected the work, he tapped the walls with a hammer to check their strength. Suzanne quietly walked away. At a vending machine, she put in a coin and took out a soda, but before she could grab it, Charles stepped up, picked it up, and drank it in the same exact style she had done to him before, then even gave her a ride home. Suzanne said softly, "I'm sorry." Charles looked puzzled. "Sorry? For what?" Suzanne admitted, "That night, I drank your cold drink. I shouldn't have." Charles didn't respond. He just dropped her off at home. At one point, Charles handed her a drink. "You need to finish this," he said. Suzanne teased him. "And what if I don't?" Charles smiled faintly. "Then, till the day we die, we'll never truly know each other." Suzanne looked into his eyes and, without hesitation, finished the drink. A moment later, they kissed. From that kiss, their love story began. They started spending beautiful moments together, going to clubs, hanging out, making memories everywhere. Suzanne, being a fashion designer, even created a suit for Charles to wear to an upcoming job interview. When she gave it to him, Charles told her, "Don't wait for me here." But Suzanne stayed anyway. After a few hours, Charles returned from the interview, and they both went home together. The next day, Suzanne and Charles were sitting together in a restaurant. Unexpectedly, Suzanne's family walked in, though in truth, Suzanne had invited them beforehand. She wanted to introduce Charles because she dreamed of marrying him. Her father immediately recognized Charles. Charles sat quietly across from Suzanne's family, but no one said a word. Her father finally spoke. "Tell me, who do you have in your family? Do you even own a house?" Charles answered honestly, "I have no one in this world, and I don't have a house of my own." He knew Suzanne's family would never accept him. He stood up to leave, but just then, Suzanne's mother stopped him. "Wait, let Suzanne come back first." Charles stayed seated, waiting for Suzanne. At that very moment, Suzanne felt unwell. She left the restaurant and stepped outside into the pouring rain. Suddenly, she collapsed. A crowd quickly gathered around her. Seeing the commotion, Suzanne's sister rushed over, and moments later, her terrified scream echoed back inside. Charles bolted out the door. He found Suzanne unconscious on the ground. Scooping her into his arms, he rushed her to the hospital. The doctor explained she fainted due to excessive stress. If she rests and gets proper sleep, she'll recover fully. When Suzanne finally regained consciousness, the first thing she saw was Charles by her side. She instantly embraced him tightly. From a distance, her father witnessed this moment. Watching Suzanne cling to Charles with all her love, he finally understood. Quietly in his heart, he accepted Charles as his future son-in-law. A few days later, Suzanne and Charles were married. Both of them were overjoyed. By now, Charles had officially become an architect and was excelling at his work. One day at home, Suzanne left the gas on while cooking, distracted and careless. Charles noticed, but said nothing. His love for her was too great to scold. That same day at work, Suzanne's father introduced Charles to a man who had been wanting to meet him for days. The man took Charles to a beautiful plot of land. "I want to build a house here," he said. "Design the model for me." Charles eagerly began working on the model. When Suzanne came back home that evening, she suddenly felt doubtful. Was this really her house or someone else's? But as soon as she stepped inside, she saw Charles, and her doubts faded. The next day, concerned about her mental lapses, Suzanne went to see a doctor. The doctor questioned her. "Have you fainted recently?" Suzanne admitted, "Yes, it happened to me once." The doctor replied, "Come back again next week. I'll run some tests to find out what's really going on with you." But Suzanne never told Charles about this. Instead, she chose to live each moment with him as if it were the best time of her life. Everything felt beautiful. One day, Suzanne accompanied Charles to meet the old man who had raised him. The man revealed something shocking. Charles's mother is still alive, but she's angry with him. Back home, Suzanne confronted Charles. "Where is your mother?" Hearing this, Charles became furious. "She is not my mother. She abandoned me when I was a child, left me with that old man, and never looked back. Now that I have money and success, she wants to come back into my life. I don't need her." Suzanne tried to calm him. "Even I once left my father and ran away, but he forgave me. You should forgive your mother too." Her words touched Charles, and slowly he softened. The next day, Charles went to meet his mother in prison. Her face bore scars. She was jailed for failing to repay borrowed money. She explained tearfully, "When you were born, your father abandoned us. I was left alone, struggling. I sacrificed everything to raise you, but I couldn't be there for you because of this prison sentence." Hearing her pain, Charles realized the truth. He forgave her. Later, he even visited the man she owed money to and returned the entire sum. Suzanne was proud of him and deeply happy. Meanwhile, 2 weeks later, Suzanne finally returned to the doctor. The doctor asked her a series of simple questions, tests meant to read her mental state, but Suzanne couldn't answer a single one. The doctor quietly ran all her tests and sent her home. Back at the office, Suzanne received another shock. Her ex-boyfriend had returned, the same one she had once planned to run away with. He approached her, trying to explain why he never showed up at the train station that day. But Suzanne cut him off. She didn't want to hear excuses. "My life is completely changed now," she told him firmly, walking away. For Suzanne, Charles was everything. He was her whole world. She loved him with all her heart. That evening at home, Suzanne was carefully pasting a photograph into an album. She got up, opened the refrigerator, and stood there as if searching for something. But strangely, she couldn't remember what she was looking for. She then opened the front door, but turning back, saw Charles sitting quietly in the room. "Where were you?" she asked. Charles looked at her gently. "I've been sitting right here." When she returned the following week, the doctor broke the news. "Suzanne, you have a condition called Alzheimer's." Shocked, Suzanne asked, "What is that?" The doctor explained, "It's an illness that slowly makes your brain forget everything. You won't be able to answer simple questions. You'll forget how to do even basic tasks. And in time, you'll forget your friends, your family, and even yourself." "But doctor, I'm only 27 years old. How can this happen to me? Isn't there a cure?" The doctor sighed. "Medication can slow it down, but it can't stop it completely." Suzanne broke down, but she didn't tell Charles the truth. Soon, she left her job and stayed home, but her condition quietly worsened. One day, when Charles sat down with his colleagues for lunch, he opened his lunchbox and found rice. Then he opened the second box, and it was rice again. Everyone laughed, but Charles was shaken. Something wasn't right with Suzanne. Unable to hold back, Charles went straight to her doctor. That's when he heard everything. Suzanne had Alzheimer's, and very soon she would forget him, her family, her friends, even herself. Anger overwhelmed him. He grabbed the doctor's collar, ready to fight. Other doctors rushed in to stop him. They told him this doctor's wife had the same disease. He's devoted his whole life to treating Alzheimer's patients. The doctor added, "Suzanne has a rare kind of Alzheimer's, the same type my wife had, and when she completely forgot me." His voice trailed off, heavy with grief. Meanwhile, Suzanne wandered outside her house. A policeman found her and asked gently, "Ma'am, where do you need to go?" But Suzanne said nothing. Her memory had failed her. As the officer led her away, she suddenly saw a familiar face, her former lover from work, the man she once had an affair with. She recognized him instantly. They went to a park together. He said, "I want to be with you again, just like we were 2 years ago." But Suzanne shook her head. 2 years ago? We hadn't even met then. She had completely forgotten the 2 years she spent with Charles. In her mind, she was still that man's girlfriend. But then suddenly, a memory sparked Charles. He was her husband. And this man had no place in her life anymore. She stood up quickly and rushed to catch a cab. Meanwhile, Charles was frantically searching for her, calling her phone. But a stranger answered, saying, "I found this phone alone lying on the street. Heartbroken, Charles returned home. There he saw Suzanne waiting, tears in her eyes. She already knew he had discovered the truth. "Charles," she whispered, "I'll soon forget everything. Our paths should separate now. Don't waste your life on me." Charles broke down too. "Yes, you'll forget everything, even me. But I'll remember. And every day, we'll make a new beginning." They both cried, knowing what the future held, yet refusing to accept it. From then on, Charles filled the house with sticky notes to help Suzanne remember simple things. One morning, as Charles left for work, Suzanne smiled and said, "Please come home early today. I've invited my family." But before Charles could return, her old boyfriend arrived at the house. Suzanne mistook him for Charles. He said, "We should leave this place. It's not safe here." Suzanne, thinking he was her husband, let him touch her face gently. But just as he was about to say something more, Charles walked in. Suzanne couldn't even recognize Charles anymore. Frightened, she hid behind another man. Seeing this, Charles lost his temper and beat the man, throwing him out of the house. But in Suzanne's mind, it looked completely different. She thought her husband was being attacked. The stress overwhelmed her, and she fainted on the spot. Just then, Suzanne's family arrived. They rushed her to the hospital, where Charles explained to them about her Alzheimer's. Suzanne's father confronted him. "You can't take care of her alone. From now on, Suzanne will live with us. It's better this way." But Charles refused, his voice trembling yet firm. "She is my wife. I love her deeply. I will never leave her. She is my responsibility." At that very moment, Suzanne appeared at the doorway. Her illness had progressed so much that she had lost control of her body. She would herself right there. Charles didn't hesitate. He rushed to her side and with his own shirt gently cleaned her feet. Later, Charles brought Suzanne back home. He showed her the model of the dream house they had always imagined building together. Suzanne's face lit up with joy. Smiling, she whispered, "I love you." But her illness played cruel tricks. She no longer called him by his name. She called him by her old boyfriends. The recent memories had slipped away, but fragments of the past still lingered. This broke Charles's heart, and when he wasn't at home, Suzanne secretly wrote him a letter. "Charles, I can't stand to see you crying. I love you very much. Even if I no longer have control over my mind, I never want to forget you. You are the part of my life I love the most. Please forgive me." Leaving the letter behind, she walked out of the house. When Charles returned and found it, he broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. His whole world collapsed. As if that wasn't enough, Suzanne's father handed him divorce papers, already signed by Suzanne. Charles ripped them to pieces. "No one can separate Suzanne from me," he declared. Then he set out to find her, searching everywhere. Desperate, he even went to the police station and filed a missing persons report. Days later, he received another letter from Suzanne. She wrote, "Today I thought of you. You are a wonderful husband." She described the mountains around her, leaving Charles a clue. Following those words, Charles finally tracked her down to a hospital. A nurse told him gently, "Her condition is very bad. Sometimes she can't even dress herself properly." When Charles entered Suzanne's room, he noticed a photo, one of them together. Suzanne was sitting there, trying to sketch his face. Later, the two of them, along with a nurse, sat together in the cafeteria. Charles smiled softly. "It's nice to meet you." Suzanne tilted her head. "Do I know you?" Her words pierced Charles's heart. Tears filled his eyes, but he quickly slipped on his sunglasses to hide them. In the next scene, the nurse took Suzanne outside to the store where she and Charles had first met. As Suzanne reached the doorway, she saw her entire family waiting. She looked at Charles and asked, "Is this heaven?" Because in that instant, her memories came back. Just like the doctor's wife in the story Charles had once heard, Suzanne suddenly remembered everything. Charles then took her on a long drive. For the very first time, he said the words he had kept in his heart for so long, "I love you." Suzanne wrapped her arms around him tightly. No one could say how long her memory would last. It might fade again in a few hours, just like it had for the doctor's wife. But one thing was certain, Charles would never ever leave her. And with that, their beautiful love story came to an end.